Property Tax Services Environmental Concerns to order. The first thing I want to note is that we did have a person in our real property office whose spouse passed away unexpectedly. We sent some flowers on behalf of the committee, and she sent us a really nice thank you note back, so I wanted to make note of that her husband was Alan Wadley from Glens Falls, so I just wanted to make everyone in the committee aware of that. And could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, please? Supervisor McDevitt and Supervisor Merlino. I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Okay, Lexi, want to get us started on this first
End of the
item?
I'm sorry. Okay, the first action agenda is to approve the chargebacks of taxes and refunds from the county treasurer's office. These are like pilot agreements or some assessment changes, and there was small claims also in there. So these are just standard housekeeping. Do these.
Any questions? Supervisor Simpson, is that a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Thank you. And Supervisor Loeb on the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so then on for information for discussion, we have in here that was actually started, I think it was last month. I think we tabled it last month.
Yes.
Which is for an amendment to Resolution 259 of 2017, which is the terms and conditions. We had asked Charlie Wallace to come and join us for discussion. We had also asked Supervisor Garrity to have Jim Hall from Hall, I think it is, from his town, but I think Jim was unavailable to be able to attend today. So
Supervisor Garrity, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. You want me to speak to it now?
Yes. Yep.
Well, all it was is, we've been aggressive trying to clean up properties in the town of Warrensburg, and my code officer is always searching the internet, finding out different things, and one of the things he found out is when the city of Newburgh sells abandoned properties or properties that have gone up for foreclosure, they put a time frame of, I think it's 18 months on the property in order for the purchaser to get a certificate of occupancy. He thought that would be a good idea, that maybe would help the towns in the future with some of these properties that are sold at county auction. We continue to work through things, our courts and whatever codes we have, but a lot of these properties do sit idle. You'll see them, and we've had discussion here on committee not to sell certain or let some of these properties go to certain landowners or purchasers, and that was it. We'll continue to do what we do, whether the county takes an active interest in this, but I can assure you, if you were to poll most of the town supervisors, they would like to see this added in to the terms and conditions of sale. But it's not a showstopper, and maybe Charlie has some other ideas that you can do this already. But I can tell you, it's a long process if you have somebody who's purchased property on the auction or any time that to get them to fix up some of these properties, because these are not premier properties that go up for tax auction. They're usually let-go properties, and that's why they're in the tax auction. So it's just to help the communities clean up, but like I said, from a town supervisor standpoint, it seemed like a good idea, but if the county doesn't want to pursue it, that's fine with me. I'm not going to take some forward.
Well, I've been trying to do some research, and Charlie was very helpful, and there are some avenues for the towns to pursue, but it does sound like it's pretty rigorous if the property owner is not keeping up with their property. Could I hear from any other town supervisors on the committee, and then we'll go outside? Yes.
Well, we're talking about houses that are included in an auction.
Right.
That we can control it at that point. We've all have issues within our town that are outside of that auction that we're dealing with, and we can do that, but this is an opportunity to get it right in the beginning. And I mean, there's people that buy these places and they may live 800 miles away or 8,000 miles away, and they get there and they look at it and they say, oh boy, what did I think I got for $12,000? and then it sits there, and it becomes even more dilapidated, some of them. So I'm in favor of doing something now.
And just for the something, it's to say that within 18 months, if they do not obtain the certificate of occupancy because they've updated the property, what is the remedy or the outcome? I'm asking you, Supervisor Garrity, what do they do?
I think they take it back.
They take it back to the county. What,
Yeah.
Lexi, do you want to tell?
I believe he takes it back. I'm not an expert on this. I believe they take it back.
If I may, I did also reach out to the city of Newburgh. It becomes a legal process in order to take it back. You can't just take it back from somebody. So then it becomes a process where our county attorney's office would have to start an action against these people to get it back from them. It wouldn't be a simple process of just taking it back. I don't know if Ryan has anything to share on that, because I don't think he's really been working on it. It was more Mary and Amy that were working on putting this resolution together. But I know when I, did talk with Mary and Amy both, it was not just a simple process of taking it back. It does require legal action to get it back from them, and I'm not sure of that process.
Do you have an update?
I don't have an update, but I think our office would prefer to look at zoning techniques and things like that. But it is something that I don't know. I haven't been working on, but I will confer with Mary.
Oh,
Okay, Supervisor Garrity?
I think it becomes a question of who's going to be the bad guy. Do you want the town to spend the money and be the bad guy and go through the rigors of it, or do you want to get some help where you have at least something into a resolution when you sold the property that potentially you could help the towns out to get some of these properties cleaned up? So that's, I did have my code guy read it over, and that's his opinion. Who do you want to be the bad guy? Do you want the towns are going to spend money for the legal process, or do you want something in it at the time of sale where the county can step in and at least help us a little bit on that? But
Hold on, I see-
no matter what you do, it's a long legal process.
I see several supervisors. I just want to hear from Lexi first. Go ahead.
Right, so just one other question, I guess input here. When it was originally, when we got the original information from Mr. Hall, it did talk about 18 months. With sitting down with Mary and talking about this, in the draft resolution that was prepared last year when this was all started, we changed that from 18 months to 24 months just because we thought it would be easier on our end for code, because a building permit is issued for every 12 months. So it would have to kind of become like a special thing. I think we would probably have to do a special resolution to change it for them to be able to issue something for 18 months instead of every 12 months. So we thought if we could change at least that part, the 18 months to the 24 months. I mean, there is a way of putting this into the terms and conditions and moving forward. I just think that the draft resolution that is in your packets might just have to be changed a little, because on the second page it talks about a written request made to the county administrator for an extension of another 24 months. Rehabilitation period shall be accompanied by a non-refundable fee of $250. I think that came from the original agreement that the city of Newburgh has. And then it also talks about how the Director of Real Property Tax Services could also, if someone showed good cause, could grant another 3-month extension, but not to exceed the 3 months. So I just wanted to point those out. We might have to rework some of the language that's in this resolution, but it is something that is possible and doable. It could be added into the terms and conditions of sale. It's just going to be from that point when they get sold at the auction of how we man this and how everybody proceeds with it, because the town is going to have to be involved, because people have to start with the town before they come to the county level. And Charlie and I did talk about this a little, but he could maybe shed a little more light because he understands that end of it better than I do. But, everybody would have to take a place in this. So if it is something with a building on it or a residence on it, I probably could then have my office after the auction reach out to the towns, get something to all their zoning people so that they have that, so when somebody starts the initial process, they would be able to have a flag on that before they send them to the county, so that the county's aware, because, I mean, this isn't just with auction properties, it's with other properties throughout the county, but they would need to know which one of these special rules would apply to. So, there is a little more to it, and I don't know if we would need to include any of that in the resolution as well, or not. I'm not really sure on that.
Okay, Supervisor Moreno's been waiting.
Well, you know, I think I brought this up over a year ago. Up to my town right now, I just passed them this morning, 2 properties we sold over 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're horrible looking. But I think if you put something in there when the people read about the description of the property, and at the bottom in big print it says you have 18 months to restore this to a safe environment, maybe they won't buy them.
Well, and then we have them?
Then we have them, you know, then we have to take them down or something like that. But to keep leaving it onto the towns, we're always the bad guys, towns, you know, and then our attorneys have to get into it, and we have to get into it. And they get holler at me when I send my zoning enforcement officer up there. But you got to do something. And if you just sit here and just keep talking about it and moving on year after year, you got an auction coming up now. If the house is abandoned, and I have one now that's abandoned, the windows are broken, and you know it's going to go up to auction because people walked away. I mean, it's hard for us to take the, you know. But if somebody has, at the bottom of that, I feel, you say you have 18 months to restore this to a livable home or a livable business. Maybe
Well, we're talking about 24 months, right?
well, that's awful long time. And then the extensions that you were just talking about, I mean, it could be 3 or 4
Yeah.
years before anything gets done.
Okay. Supervisor Hogan has been waiting too.
I support this legislation. I think sometimes it's not even a matter of us just being the bad guys. I mean, many of us don't even have the resources to pursue these buildings. We have a lot that are coming to us through the county auction, but we have a lot that are also not. This is just one segment of the whole thing, and I think it would be really helpful to have this in place.
Supervisor Simpson?
So I was going to say, it has to be between the county and the town. We don't know what the inside of that building looks like, but we may hear from neighbors what it is. What's that?
We don't either.
Right, and the county doesn't either, and the people that purchased it don't know. So this really needs to come in right in the front when we have an opportunity. And then between the town and the county, we can work it out. But I think, you know, 24 months, I know Gene would like to have it sooner, but I'm very familiar with the construction industry and, you know, working with the county with building permits and, you know, zoning permits and maybe variances that they're going to need. It's a 3-month process for a variance in the Adirondack Park. So-
I want to hear from Charlie, then I'll come back to you, Supervisor Hogan.
Okay. In regards to the...
Hey, Charlie, can you go up to the podium, please, just so we can hear you? I can't hear you.
In regards to the policies and the policing of it, our permit period runs for a 12-month period, and then anyone can renew a building permit for another 12 months beyond that period. So that's where the 24 months came into play. Regarding notifying us, it's going to have to, I think, start with the town zoning officers, so that when someone comes in to get a zoning compliance certificate, which we need in hand before we can issue a building permit. We don't do zoning. All the towns do their own zoning. We have it flagged right on that certificate that we have special conditions that we have to put into our permit for this. So we'll just use this 24-month period. No matter what, we can only issue a permit for a maximum of the 1 year with a 1-year renewal to get them out to that 24 months. But if we don't know that right in the beginning, for the most part, I don't believe people will disclose that information without it being written down somewhere, that this was an auction property, this is what I have to do for it. So I think that's got to get policed right in the very start, right at the zoning offices. We can condition our permits for it. That becomes very easy. The other thing, some of these properties aren't going to require building permits. Maybe the amount of work that needs to be done isn't going to hit the trigger to have to pull a permit. In those cases, it does reference certificates of compliance in here. That we can do. I don't believe the county's going to want to issue a certificate of occupancy for a building that was built pre-code that is not up to any current standards as long as it meets the fire and life standards that are in the property maintenance code. So we need to make two distinctions. I believe that this does that. If we issue a permit, we issue a certificate of occupancy for that place. Don't have to issue permits. We do an inspection of it. We give them a certificate of compliance. Either way, I think it will cover what's needed in here, and we can generate the paperwork for it. So it's just a matter of getting it policed right out the door, right in the beginning, and then we can proceed from there. Report back to Lex's office or the board or whomever, and get it taken care of.
Charlie,
Yes, Supervisor Shaw.
I can see it coming. Now, if we adopt this law, and it gives 24 months, and let's say the 20-month period begins June, but I don't go and get a building permit till September, and I get it renewed. So I'm going to argue that my building permit is still valid for another year. And now, it may have exceeded the 24-month time period, so you're going to have to fight that battle unless we make it clear in the wording.
Exactly.
That this would supersede their building permit time frame.
Well, that's not addressed right now.
Right, okay.
So that is an issue.
I just want
because-
to say, hold on, this is the first time we brought it to committee, so I think it's this is good to have the discussion and hash out some of the language that we need to get fixed and then bring it back to committee next month. I know you towns have been dealing with this forever, but this is the first time we brought this matter to committee. Okay, Lexi, sorry.
I
for
mean,
interrupting.
that is something to remember. I mean, the auction is in October. All the bids go to the November board meeting. Deeds are usually not issued to these people until November or December of that year. So they don't technically become the owner until the deed goes into their name and recorded in the county clerks. So how long does it take for them to have to go and get that building permit? Is there going to be a discretion added to the resolution that they have X number of months to be able to apply for that building permit?
Well, I think it's not, like he said, sometimes they don't even need a building permit. So I don't know if we need to include that initial upfront deadline. They just need to get, one thing I'm seeing is missing is in the period where it says they have to get a certificate of occupancy or show that it's fit for use or demolish the building. In that little section, we don't talk about obtaining a certificate of compliance as an alternative to,
Nope.
so I think we need
On the first
to
page.
include that in. Yeah. Okay. I did see Supervisor Leggett a while ago. Do you want to speak to this?
I support this idea of towns to grapple with these properties because they come up for an auction for a reason. Usually, they've been neglected over time, and this is the one point where we can intercede with the future of the property. So putting a timeline on.
Okay, yes. County Administrator.
Just one point, I noted that the verbiage says that the county may commence legal proceeding, not that we must. It gives us some degree of flexibility there. And a question that I would have, again, seeing this for the first time from my perspective, is I'm fine with the county administrator extension process, but it's not clear whether or not I would have the ability to deny an extension request, or whether an extension request would be automatic if they pay the $250.
Okay. Where is that? On the second page?
On the second page.
I see the Director of Real Property
No,
may...
it's above that.
Oh, sorry.
Above that.
See the
Yeah.
250.
Oh, I see.
The third
Oh, you're
line
right.
number is issued.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I think you should definitely be given the ability to deny. If there's some reason we wouldn't want...
Yeah, I think so. I would work with the town supervisor or the mayor in each case, and we could do whatever you want to do. I think it makes sense to give ourselves some flexibility. throughout this whole policy.
Okay, so if I feel like there's consensus from the committee to have the county attorney's office look at this a little bit closer, make some of these tweaks, yes, Supervisor Loeb?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I thought you didn't see my arm up here
I didn't.
several times. All right. It was brought to the board last month. It sounded like a really good idea. We're making forward progress. It sounds like a great idea, but as Lexi said, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. I'm in full favor of supporting the concept, but let's take it one step at a time, answer all the questions that Lexi was having and what the other town supervisors had, and then we'll come back.
Great. We can talk about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that has been hashed out for today on that one. Lexi, can you give us just a brief update on
Sure.
for number 2 of information for discussion?
Yep. So, I'm still waiting to hear back from Patrick Holloway on the Chestertown property, but on the Queensbury property, I have sent a request out to Atlantic Testing for a fee schedule as well as a scope of services for them to go in and do the asbestos testing on the Mullins property. Department of Public Works already has a contract with them for those type of services, and so we can piggyback off of that. And so that's the route we're kind of looking to go. We just got to wait to hear back from them to see what the cost would be. And so once I know all that, probably next month, I'll be able to bring that back to committee. And then hopefully we can move forward with getting that property tested for the asbestos. So that's all I really have on those. Question? No? Okay. Okay, thank you. On item number 6, this is to potentially support an expansion of the bottle bill. This was brought to us by Supervisor Garrity, so if he would like to give us an update on this one as well, or
Yes,
give us an overview. I did include in the packet the first couple pages of the bill itself. I didn't include all of the pages, but we also, Lexi did include then the memorandum of support for the legislation in the legislature, which explains it a little bit further, but you want to just give us like the
Yeah.
2-second,
Yes, this was
2 minutes?
brought to me by my Redemption Center owner in Morrisburg. You know, he's struggling a little bit now with minimum wage going up and being able to keep his Redemption Center open. I mean, they keep pushing the wages up, and this would be a way for him to capture more business for his Redemption Center. I think it's a good idea. We'll clean up the side of the roads a little bit more. We hope to clean up some more trash, and I fully support him in this, and it would add more bottles that he could recycle. So we're pressing recycling, and you know, these small business owners are struggling, and you know, to keep putting wage increase on them, you know, they either cut their hours or they find another way to support their business, and this would be a way to generate more revenue for him. So I fully support it, and I hope the board would fully support being able to collect more bottles and clean up more trash.
So my thought is if there's support, we could do a letter to our state representatives and the governor and Senator Engelbright, who is sponsoring this bill. And,
I got his
oh, sorry, thank you. Assemblyman Engelbright. Thanks, Supervisor Simpson.
Assemblyman, I have his email.
Yes, I know, thank you. Yes. On that land bank thing, I did hear that it is moving forward, Supervisor Gary. So Assemblyman Engelbright is not trying to hold it up.
Very good.
So,
That's positive.
yes. On this, Supervisor Molino, would you like to give some comments on your town?
Well, you know, I just talked to you in the hallway about
Yeah.
this. 2 weeks ago, I saw one of my employees picking the recyclable bin that we have at the landfill, taking out nickel cans. Wasn't happy about it. His 19-hour guy picking nickel bottles. Well, the other day they sent me a report, for the last 2 years, plus a little, we've collected $3,000 in nickel cans. And it's amazing. It's amazing, you know, what people throw away. It's not only what's on the side of the road, it's what they bring to our metal bin and plastic bin. So, my question was, where does all these nickels go from the people that throw the stuff away? I mean, how much,
New York
does
State.
anybody, yeah, I know it goes to the state, but does anybody know what kind of fund that is in and how it's used? Huh?
Yeah.
I think
It goes to the general fund?
Land conservancy, that's what they're buying up all the land with.
Oh. But no, I was just, it just took me by surprise to see that we've collected $3,000+ in nickel cans that people just dispense. So, it was just something I wanted to...
Supervisor Hogan?
I have a question. I remember hearing that we don't actually recycle glass, right? Most of our glass goes to a pit.
DPW.
Oh, in the town, right, or in the county, yes.
Right. So wouldn't this expansion allow us to be actually recycling a lot of things that we're not recycling at this point? Yes?
Do you want to answer
No?
that,
Is
Supervisor
true?
Garrity?
Well, the only thing I will say is my recycling, my redemption center person is also talking to somebody about taking some of our glass away that we are storing it up in Lake George.
So he's found a place to recycle it.
He's working with somebody to say, we may not get paid for it, but they may come looking to take some of our glass away to use it in a process. I'm not quite sure how far along we are on that, but that would be a good idea too.
Yeah.
That would be something else would be helpful. So.
I think it would help. It says mostly it's for liquor, cider, and wine products. But
Those are
whatever
all-
of those come in glass, they would be
Recycled now.
recycled.
And we're not recycling them currently. Correct. I'm correct in that.
Right.
Yay.
Could I have a
I'm all
motion
for it.
in support of this? Yes, Supervisor McDevitt, seconded by Supervisor Hogan. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you. We will get a letter together and get that out. Well, it'll have to go to full board first. Okay, on to item 7, environmental concerns, the first one. Tammy, could you give us an update on your work with the state funding program? And also, if you flip in your packet past the Clean Energy Communities program, there is a resolution request form that Tammy put together for us. And it is followed by the letter.
Okay, so we've met, this
It's
is
at the very
regarding
end.
the state system replacement program. And we talked we've been talking about this the last few months, and we did meet, and Sarah Frankenfeld from the planning department was able to provide us the GIS, high-level GIS study that we needed, and Beth Gillis and her group from the regional planning board was able to provide us information on the DEC classifications for water bodies in Warren County. So now we believe we're at a point, I've been speaking with Ken Kaczynski, who is the DEC representative responsible for this program, as just to bring everybody up to speed again, Warren County was not included in the 31 counties that were eligible for this program. We're hoping to opt in. So we've had several conversations, I've had several conversations with Ken. We're at the next step now where we're requesting a letter that will go from our chairman of the board to the DEC, just requesting that we are listed, Warren County be listed in the eligible counties for this funding. Again, what this will mean is for property owners, it could potentially mean up to 50% of the replacement of failing septic systems up to $10,000. So upstate counties really haven't received a ton of money in this. We're hearing about $200,000, but still, for some of our property owners, it may mean the difference whether or not they even consider doing a project. So certainly a worthwhile request, and we hope that you'll support that resolution.
Okay, a motion for that resolution by Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any discussion? I would like to point your attention to the water bodies that have been identified. They're in the letter there: Lake George, Scroon Lake, Scroon River, Brant Lake, Loon Lake, Glen Lake, Lake Luzerne, and both the Halfway Brook Reservoir and the Hudson River itself.
All the way?
Yes. At this point, we're keeping it as broad as we can. We are pretty certain that the DEC officials are going to require us to narrow it more than that, but that's where we are right now. Supervisor Hogan?
I understand this is what we need to do to get into this program, but I just want to point out it's a watery world up here and all of its watershed, so at some point I would like to see us expand this to include more properties.
Can you give us some of the criteria that the state has already given us as far as including
Sure.
water bodies?
Well, they're going to look at their classifications first, but then the other piece is there must be public access. So, and that was something that when you read in some of the guidance documents, it's not evident there, but information that we've received from both from Ken Kaczynski and we've been very fortunate to have the Regional Planning Board participate in our committee discussions because they're going through this with Clinton County, so they're aware of some of the other criteria that the state is using when the DEC takes, because we started with a list of 35, when they're starting with a list and they're trying to pare down so that, and again, they're looking for water bodies that they really feel that making some of these changes will really affect the water quality.
Supervisor Leggett? Yep. Beth Gillis from Regional Planning Board, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just that Tim had noted it has to have public access. The homes have to be within a certain distance of the water body, and the DEC would like to target full-time residents to start with. The county can opt to do seasonal homes, but the program is really meant for full-time homes.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. I'm going to call the question unless there's any other questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. On this item, we also have the septic inspection, which I think kind of goes to Supervisor Hogan's comment about trying to do something to further improve the water quality throughout our very watery county. And I have been looking at Queensberry's inspection at transfer law. I just want to know before I start digging into it any further, because it's going to require some changes to that. Before I do that, is there consensus on this committee to even look and see if that's possible? My thought is that we would pass something that would be similar to what they've done, but also complementing this the state funding program, that if we identify properties that need to replace their septic system at transfer, that some of this money might be available to them, to those people who are covered by a county law. Comments? Thoughts? Totally oppose that idea?
I support it.
Okay. All right, well, I'll keep looking at it. Yes, Ryan?
Charlie, you and I talked about this, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months ago, and you had a thought as to requirements for homeowners to be responsible.
Oh, yes. Yep, I'm in regard to the conversation. In regards to the inspection process, actually, and I believe, and I'm not sure, but Town of Queensbury, I believe their code enforcement department is doing some of these inspections. Correct. In regards to our conversation I had with Ryan, it would seem to me that it would be better to have, instead of the county putting themselves out there doing the inspections, to have this done by a third-party design professional. That way they're taking on all the liability that may come from something that is maybe working now but maybe fails. It was just a thought, and that was kind of the gist of the conversation we had, was making that requirement part of the sale, but having it done by people who are designing these systems. I mean, specialized training, specialized education, but more so putting it on to the people that are actually using the service instead of the county department and the responsibility of it. I mean, we get third-party inspection reports for all sorts of things in the construction field, whether it be concrete testing, sprinkler systems. There's all kinds of things that our office already gets third-party inspection reports on. This is so specialized that it seems to me it would be best to make the owners of the property or the purchasers of the property up the expense of having it done, and also the responsibility of the findings of any one of these inspections go on to the design professional That's what he does for a living.
Thank you. Thanks. That's great. Okay, I will keep looking at that and see if there's something that we can do at the county level. I have number 2 on here, the plastic bag update. We did have scheduled a public hearing for Friday, actually, but that was canceled because the state did pass legislation for a statewide plastic bag ban that will go into effect March of 2020. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. There was a NISAC information, I don't know, white paper that came out, and I did email that to everybody. It's online if you want to look it up and get some more details about how this is going to impact the state. Anything on that? Okay. Number 3. Okay. The clean energy community. Do you want to say about that?
Just a question.
Yeah.
Did you want to mention the bag fee, the paper
Oh,
bag,
yeah.
or-
Thanks.
I
totally
we had
did.
talked about it, so.
Okay, part of the state law allowed counties to impose a 5-cent fee for paper bags. Is that something that we want to look into doing? Supervisor McDevitt.
At this point in time, I would be opposed to that. I just, this is going to be a major change for retailers, and I would like to keep it as simple as possible for the retailer. I don't know if, personally, I don't know if we want to be in the revenue collection business on a local level, although it does occur, for the state of New York, okay? So at this point in time, I'd probably be opposed to it, unless there's something out there that I'm missing.
Yeah, Supervisor Simpson or Supervisor Strauss? Sorry.
I'm not in favor of charging any fee whatsoever.
Supervisor Strauss?
I'm agreeing with the other two gentlemen that this tax would be another burden, another administrative layer, another set of regulations on mostly the grocery stores and others. I support the bag reduction law, but I think this additional fee and the administration that has to go with it, with the ultimate goal of helping those who couldn't normally afford a recycled bag to be able to afford one, almost doesn't seem like it's worth the effort.
That's a good point. The money, we would only get to keep 2 cents of the 5 cents, and the money can only be used for purchasing reusable bags for people who need them. And then if we don't use up all the money that we get for such purchases, then all that money not all that, I don't know how much it would be, but that money would go back to the state.
And if you read the violations and you read the administration of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of mind-boggling, and it goes on for several pages. So I would agree with the others who have said I don't support this.
Okay, anybody? Yes, Supervisor?
Yeah. This is common sense if you ask me. I mean, the additional tax is mandated, the state gets most of the $3, $5. Seniors now have a hardship now. And I know a nickel doesn't sound like a lot per bag, but you get 5 bags, you have the 25 cents every time you go in. The seniors, this affects seniors more than anybody. There's got to be enough at some point of taxation. So I'm 1,000% against us adding a nickel for every
Well, on that, 1,000% against it. I don't see anyone here really leaping forward to advocate for this. So we're gonna leave it be. Thank you. I'm glad we had that discussion. Thank you, Ryan, for reminding me not to bring that up. Okay. Now, the very exciting portion of our agenda that I'd like to talk about today is having Warren County become certified as a clean energy community. And Ryan did talk about this in his report at the meeting on Friday. We had a meeting between myself, Ryan, Wayne Lamoth was there, and he had Frank Morehouse, and Kevin Hages was there as well, talking about so under the clean energy communities, there are 10 high-impact items that a county or municipality can take in order to become certified. And it turns out that we are already almost at 4 of the high-impact actions. So once we do that, it does open up funding streams. This is my understanding. It's an initial $5,000 grant, which isn't a lot, but it will help the county. And then it also allows for more funding opportunities, both for us and for private entities. So I think it's something that it would be worthwhile for us to pursue if it doesn't cost us any money to actually do that, and we're very close to being there. So I've asked the State Clean Energy Communities Coordinator for our region to come and give us a little presentation about it, and you will see that there are some materials in your packet that you can follow along with. So I'd like to introduce Tara Donadio, please. If you could go to the podium, that would help everybody hear you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Tara Donadio. I'm from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. We are the REDC coordinator for the Clean Energy Communities Program, which includes Warren County. So we've actually been previously working, my colleague Jill and I, with the town of Queensbury and the city of Glens Falls, who are designated clean energy communities, to get them through this program and get some grant money for some clean energy projects. This program has been around for about 3 years now, almost 3 years. So there is some funding left, although most of the large grants have been expended and were used in the first couple years because it was kind of a first-come, first-served basis. There are still some $5,000 grants left, which isn't a lot, not a huge incentive for the county, but I think the program itself is worth it, and there is going to be a future iteration of this program where there's going to be kind of this leadership track where more money is going to be available to communities and giving extra kind of points to communities that are already designated. It's a pretty simple program. As Claudia mentioned, there are 10 high-impact action items. You need to do 4 in order to be considered designated. There are over 250 communities in New York State now that are designated as clean energy communities, so it's a pretty popular program. I think there's about 15 counties, I want to say 15 counties that are already designated or moving forward with this program. It's available at all levels, from village, city, town, county. And so I'll kind of just go over some of the high-impact action items and kind of give you an overview of what those are and what they would require from the county. So the first one is benchmarking, which is a pretty simple one, and it basically is adopting a policy to report the energy use of municipal buildings on an annual basis. The county would be using this tool called Energy Star Portfolio Manager, where they would just basically put all of their building energy use into the database and basically just be able to track and see how you're doing. It's an easy one. All that has to be done is adopting a policy to report this or adopt a resolution basically to support this.
Tara, can I stop you right there?
Of course.
One of our DPW superintendent's concerns was that it included also private buildings, that we were supposed to somehow gather information about the energy usage of commercial buildings in the county. Is that accurate?
Right. That has been changed. When the program started, it was requiring large municipalities, which would be municipalities over 40,000, to include private buildings.
And we're over 40,000 population.
Right. They changed that about a year ago to include that you can optionally put private buildings in, but you're not required to do that.
Okay.
Because obviously that
was a big concern, because we thought, how are we going to get commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Huge hurdle. I can imagine.
Just the buildings that we as a county own municipally?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, correct. The next one would be clean energy upgrades, which is tied pretty closely to that benchmarking action item. You're basically looking at any upgrades that have been done in the county and seeing if you've been able to get a 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from a project done since 2014. So you take that benchmarking data and you basically, and that's something that we have free technical support to help you with. So no one at the county would be required. We would just, need some data and some projects that you've been able to do. And it's actually usually easier than you think. A lot of municipalities I'm working with have just upgraded their lighting for their buildings and been able to achieve that 10% reduction.
And we are working on that right now.
You are? Oh, wonderful.
Upgrading our lighting to LED. Yes.
So that very well could get you there.
Yeah.
The next one is LED street lighting. That I don't believe that the county has any street lights, so I'm going to skip over that one. But just so you're aware, for towns and villages. If you upgrade 50% of your streetlights to LEDs, you are eligible for this action item. And that's something that's happening a lot now in New York State. It's about a 70% reduction in savings if you're able to do that. The next one is Clean Fleets, which would be installing an EV charging station that's municipally owned, so county owned, or purchasing an alternative fuel vehicle for county purposes. A lot of the communities we work with are going just with the EV charging station because it seems to be the least expensive option, and there are some grants out there from the state right now that pretty much make this almost free, I want to say, like very, very minimal expense between a National Grid Make-Ready grant and another NYSERDA grant to install EV charging infrastructure.
And we are pursuing those grant opportunities as well for EV charging stations.
Yep. The next one is going to be, it's a Solarize campaign, which I don't know if you've heard of this concept, but it's basically just kind of gathering, doing an RFP, or basically a request for proposals from solar installers in the area, and using one, and basically kind of using this to market solar installs for rooftop solar to residents, or community solar. It could be either or. You do have to achieve 10 installs in order to do this. Queensbury had a successful Solarize campaign where they got, I think, 4 times as many as they needed. Glens Falls actually got some as well, so it can certainly work. The next one is a unified solar permit. So the next two I'm going to talk about are directly related to code enforcement. And most counties are not eligible for this action item because they don't have code enforcement at the county level. So this is something where Warren County is in a unique position to take advantage of this because these are relatively easy action items. The first one's a unified solar permit, which is adopting the New York State Unified Solar Permit to streamline approvals and process for local solar projects under 25 megawatts, or kilowatts, I'm sorry. So small projects like houses and small businesses. Basically what this does is it just helps to kind of, simplify the permitting process for these types of things for the installers and for the residents to make it safer and easier. The next one that's related to code enforcement is an energy code enforcement training, which trains the code enforcement officer on New York State energy code. For municipalities of over 40,000, it would require a one-on-one training, which would be free and provided by NYSERDA, where they would do a few one-on-one sessions with a code officer and a few just kind of go along with for a few site inspections, and then they would give them the certificate of completion. And again, it's free and it's worth it, and one of those things I tell communities to do even if they're not interested in pursuing this program. The next one is Climate Smart Communities certification, which is actually a much larger program that the DEC runs to certify communities for what they consider being climate smart, which is adaptation and mitigation strategies. Because it's a larger program, I don't usually recommend this as a step to getting designated. It could be a next step maybe that the county takes after designation in this program. And we are able to provide free support to that or any of the actions that includes, which are things like complete streets policies, climate adaptation strategies, and there are some grants that the DEC offers to do watershed mitigation and planning and things like that go along with it.
I wanted to step in right there. Wayne Lamothe is looking at a grant opportunity under that program, but it is the whole Climate Smart Communities certification process is pretty complicated. But like she said, there are some grant opportunities available, and he's looking at one that would be $100,000 for the county to do, I believe it's a natural resource and risk inventory.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and those are some of the types of things that they are able to fund with that program. The ninth one on the list is community choice aggregation, which I'm going to skip over because it's based on home rule, so it's something that the town would have to pass, or the village, or the city, and the county's not able to do that. But you may be hearing more about that, and it really just is the idea of kind of aggregating the energy supply for all of the residents in the municipality, and lowering the energy cost, and hopefully choosing renewable for all of those residents as well. And the final one on the list is Energize New York Finance, which is PACE financing is another word for it. Basically what it does is it allows property owners to pay back the cost of clean energy upgrades, and by property owners it's businesses. Residents are not eligible for this program. For commercial or nonprofit properties through a special charge on their property tax bill. This actually used to be a special charge on their property tax bill. They recently changed this program, so now it is just basically another bill that they would get, similar to kind of like a water bill, is how it's been explained to me by Energize New York Finance. And it is, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on it because it is a little complex. The person that handles this can give a really thorough presentation if there's any questions or answer any follow-up questions. He's actually offered to be on call if we have questions here that I'm not able to answer. But the program was just changed. It used to be a little more complex where if the property went into foreclosure, that it would fall to the county to handle that property. If the bill fell into foreclosure, the county would have to handle that. Now it's all being financed by capital providers. So there's kind of that buffer there where the county doesn't actually have to manage those types of payments and things like that, which I think is a huge advantage, and they're seeing a lot of interest now. I believe it's Clinton and, did you say Franklin and Clinton counties are thinking of moving forward with this?
Franklin and Essex.
Franklin and Essex. Okay. Yep. Thank you. And then there was a lot of communities actually that had already signed on to this program prior to the change, even with kind of the stricter regulations. So City of Saratoga, City of Glens Falls had already become members, Albany County, Columbia County, Montgomery County. So there was already quite a few communities that had signed on prior to these even more flexible changes for communities. So that is, yep.
Albany, Montgomery, Columbia, any other counties? There's Westchester.
Westchester, of course. Tompkins, Wayne. I'm sorry, I don't have the full list in front of me. There's quite a few. Broome County. And I can't think of any others at the moment that have...
Thank you.
Yeah, I can get you the full list, though.
Anything else?
That is all I have, so if anyone has any questions, I know I kind of went through that real fast.
Any questions at this point? Okay. So in my little subcommittee meeting with those department heads, we did come up with 3 action items that we think we can take at this point in time. The first one I want to bring to your attention is the code enforcement training that she mentioned, which was free, and we have talked to Charlie briefly about this one. And I think that he is amenable to receiving the training, and we just need, Ryan would like us to get some consensus at the committee level that Charlie should participate in the training program, and then we can check off this item. Is there anybody opposed to that? Are we good? Okay. You good, Ryan? Okay. The second one is the Unified Solar Permit, and we do need a resolution to pass this. There is a standardized form that the state has presented to Charlie, and he's looked at it. He says it's workable, it needs some modifications, but in order for us to formally adopt that, we do need a resolution to do so. Anyone willing to put that forward? Thank you, Supervisor Strau. Is there a second? Thank you, Supervisor Simpson, to bring it to the floor for discussion. Charlie, can you give us an update, or not an update, but give us some more information on how that will work, the solarized permit?
Well, a lot of it's the same information as we have on our current standard permit application now. We have to insert some headings and stuff throughout it. Maybe add a couple of items in the first box. They can't be less stringent than what this one is, and I don't foresee that happening. I'm going to run it through the county attorney's office, make sure there's no legalities with it. But for us, this is a pretty simple process. Everything pretty much that we need is on here already. We just have to insert the right word, and you can send it out there as soon as we're able to put it out for solar ads.
And it seems like, I mean, you've been already doing the solar applications in a day, you were telling me, so, or very quickly. So this isn't going to change our process a whole lot, but it will make it a little bit more streamlined and allow us to check off this box. So I think that it's a worthwhile endeavor, yes.
And all we need is for 10 installs to come off of this to get credit for this category?
No, that's a separate category, so the one you're referencing is the solarized. This one, just all you have to do is pass the resolution and
And start using the form.
it.
Oh,
Exactly.
and that's all we need?
That's all, yep.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. All right, so there we go, we have two things done. The final one that I want to talk about is the Energize New York Finance Program. But before we do that, I do want to mention the benchmarking. Kevin and Wayne did not think we could do this because of the private properties being included, but now that we know that that has been changed recently, that might be something that we should take a look at adopting at next month's meeting. I want to look at it more because I didn't. Since I met with them, I figured that was not something we could do, but it sounds like if all we have to do is adopt a policy to track energy usage, we can't, because Frank Morehouse says we already track our energy usage, especially because of the Siemens projects.
Tara, I'll follow up with you on that, and I'll follow up with our department heads.
Okay, so the last one, which is a little bit meatier, is this Energize New York Finance Program. And Lexi and I both were on a call with Tara on Friday with the Energize New York, what is his title? And I can't remember his name, Mark. He's the director. And he ran through some information for us, because one of the big concerns in the past was that the county had more liability and more responsibility for administering the program, but they have made recent changes. It's a new iteration of it now, and the county does not have to do any of the administration of the program. And as far as I can tell, it is a great opportunity for our private, commercial, and nonprofits to be able to finance energy upgrade projects. So it will be a benefit to our private entities. The downside that I did see, which I don't think it's large, but Lexi can disagree with me, is that if one of these properties goes into the county foreclosure process, there's two backstops. First, it could be the mortgage, a regular mortgage bank might step in and take the property and foreclose on it first, because they don't want to lose their investment in the collateral. But if there was no bank involved, or the bank decides not to foreclose on it first, the second backstop is this capital provider that has to be in place first. They're the ones that are doing the project instead of the municipalities. And they, I think, would step in to redeem the property before the county foreclosed on it. So I don't think we're at much risk, but there is a tiny risk that either the bank or this capital provider would not step in to redeem the property first, and then it would come to the county foreclosure sale. And if no one bought it at the auction, then we would have this piece of property on which we would have to continue paying the payments. Yes, Supervisor Hogan.
So Tara just described it as something more like a water bill rather than actually part of the tax bill? So,
But it
okay.
would be still a monthly bill that would have to be paid by somebody.
It stays with the property.
Would it be eligible for partial payment?
Through us.
Well, no, but the property bill, property taxes, I mean, Queensbury and Johnsburg are accepting partial payment, so would this be something that would be billed separately from that? How?
Yeah, it's billed separately.
The town wouldn't be billing this, nor would the county be billing this. This would be billed from the people that they took the loan from. It's
Right, it's the capital provider that would actually be doing the
So
billing.
The descriptor that it would be part of available, I just read it. That it become a special charge on their property tax bill.
And that just changed, actually. So that's the newest iteration of the program. It's called Open CPACE, where it's made it a little bit more easy. And I think the one that you have is right before they changed this, maybe like a month ago. So NYSERDA was a little slow to update their stuff. I think they just updated it like last week. So nobody's
Separate bill altogether.
It's a separate bill, correct, that they would be getting.
Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, the whole part of solar is, it's there for when you need it, but when you don't need it, all right, doesn't it get charged back to the utilities, and it actually becomes a credit? So Not that it's a whole lot of money, but nobody living there, they won't be using any energy, and when it's producing energy, it's producing a credit. So, I mean, it could be a slight offset, I mean, depending on how large the panels are, but, I mean, that's how it all works. It's there
Yeah,
for when you need it, and when it's not, it's
Charging.
it's a chargeback, you know?
Well, Tara, can you tell us what some of the other projects are, though? It's not just for solar panels.
Yeah, it's energy efficiency in general. So a lot of times they're using it for, building envelope updates, so just kind of tightening the building. Sometimes it can be heating systems, cooling systems. In some cases, solar could be an option as well, but I think a lot of times it's just being used for the energy efficiency portion
Like
of things.
windows, like replacing old windows and...
Yeah.
So, yeah, Supervisor McDevitt.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Replacing old windows, something as basic as that. We take a 50-plus-year-old building that we're in, and we look at banks of windows, and I'm referring specifically to our main meeting room. On a cold day, the loss of energy I'm sensing is significant, okay? That bank of windows, that it would probably wouldn't require a ton of sophistication on the part of National Grid to come in and figure that out, but it is cold sitting by those windows, and again, that 50-year-old building, and has technology changed in the last 50 years as it relates to those type windows?
Yeah, and if we have commercial businesses in the county that want to take advantage of getting financing through this program for energy upgrades, I don't know why we would. I'm not seeing enough of a risk for us to not give this opportunity to them to replace windows, replace old hot water tanks, or furnaces, that kind of thing, or do solar projects. So this one does require a local law to pass, so my thought is that, oh yes, and we need a municipal agreement with the capital provider.
Right, that happens once a property applies to do this, so it's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so we don't need to pass anything regarding that right away?
I don't believe so. I would double-check with Mark on that, but I believe it's once a property applies to use this, then you'd have to approve the capital provider and provide that funding, or provide the information that the law has been passed, but...
Okay, oh, that's right, yes, at that time we just have to say a law has been passed.
Yeah.
Okay, right, so my thought is that we pass a resolution here sending it to Legislative and Rules to review. Supervisor Simpson? Yes? Okay, great. Any second? Supervisor McGowan, can I get you to second this?
Well, I'm not on this committee,
Oh,
actually.
that's right, I
I was
forgot.
just so comfortable today, I didn't want to move.
Supervisor McDevitt? Oh, okay. Any further discussion to send this to Legislative and Rules for their review? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries, thank you. Tara, thank you so much for making the trek here.
Thank you all.
And the other one, I did mention it during her presentation, we are applying for the EV grant funding, so that would be another item that we can check off. Do we have yeah.
And I just wanted to add, I did talk to Ed Bartholomew about this whole program, the whole overarching program, and he agreed that by getting this certification, by the county getting this certification, there are grant opportunities for not just the government, but also for businesses within the county. It'll open up some doors for businesses to go out and access some state funding as well. So that's a positive.
Great. And part of the Energize Finance Program is making our businesses aware of it, so if we can partner with EDC at all, that would be great to let them know. It's supposed to be an economic improvement activity. Okay, anything else to come before the committee from the public? Anything? Charlie, thank you for being here. Beth, thank you. Okay, and our guests, thank you. Yeah, we did some good work today. Okay, motion to adjourn? Stroud and Simpson on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Too bad. Thank you.
That was great.